I've spent a lot of time bouncing between all kinds of PS5 games, big open worlds, intense action, and those slow, story-heavy titles that pull you in. So for this video, I'm sharing where each game lands on my personal tier list, based on how they felt to play and how much they stuck with me. Let's get started. Returnal stands out as one of the most exciting experiences I've had on PS5. Every time I drop onto Atropos, the game hits me with fast, intense combat and that constant feeling of danger. Playing as Celine, stuck in this strange time loop, keeps me curious the whole way through. The enemies are tough, the bullet patterns get wild, and every run pushes me to get better. It's challenging, stylish, and incredibly satisfying when things finally click. What really makes it an excellent game for me is how failure never feels wasted. Each attempt teaches me something new and pulls me deeper into the mystery. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is honestly one of the most emotional and visually stunning RPGs I've played in years. The world of Lumiere feels warm and alive, and guiding the 33rd expedition to stop the Paintress really hit me on a personal level. The combat blew me away. It mixes turn-based strategy with real-time parries and skill timing, so every move feels meaningful. And the art? It looks like a living painting, with a soundtrack that adds emotion to every moment. From start to finish, this game left a strong impact on me, and that's exactly why I place it firmly in the masterpiece tier. Ghost of Yotei grabbed me right away with how personal the whole journey felt. Taking on the role of Atsu while hunting the Yotei 6 gives every step real weight, and moving through Izo is a visual treat. One moment I'm climbing frozen cliffs, and the next I'm walking through these bright, painted-looking fields. The combat is what really stuck with me, switching between katanas, spears, and the chained sickle feels smooth, and adding pistols, smoke bombs, and fire attacks keeps every fight tense and dramatic. It's not trying to reinvent open-world games, but it delivers a stylish, brutal samurai revenge story incredibly well. That's why it sits in the excellent tier for me. Spider-Man 2 ended up being one of the most exciting superhero games I've played in a long time. Swinging across a bigger, more detailed New York feels amazing, and the new web wings make traveling across the city even faster. The combat hits hard too, mixing in parries, finishers, Miles' electric abilities, and Peter's symbiote powers gives every fight a ton of energy. What kept me hooked the most, though, was the story. It balances fun, light moments with emotional, heavy ones, and both Peter and Miles get arcs that really stuck with me. Even if some side activities feel familiar, the main campaign, characters, and big set pieces make the whole experience incredibly memorable. Brilliant traversal, charismatic characters, and blockbuster set pieces make it a fantastic play, just shy of the highest tier but lands in great. Helldivers 2 has been one of the most fun co-op games I've played on PS5. Dropping onto alien planets with my squad always leads to something unexpected. Sometimes we pull off a clean run, and other times we're blowing each other up by accident. The combat is fast and tactical, with airstrikes, turrets, and stratagems turning every mission into controlled chaos. Progression feels solid, the gear is great to experiment with, and the DualSense feedback adds a lot to the action. It had a few issues early on, but overall it's a really strong co-op experience, and that's why it sits in the great tier for me. Metaphor ReFantazio pulled me in with its huge, messy fantasy world right away. I enjoyed exploring dungeons, building friendships, and getting caught up in the fight for the throne. The turn-based combat stood out the most for me. The archetype system makes each character flexible, and pulling off big combo attacks always felt satisfying. Upgrading the Gauntlet Runner and facing tough bosses kept the adventure moving, even when the difficulty spiked. It has a lot of style, heart, and strong JRPG systems that kept me playing for hours. But some uneven pacing and ambitious ideas that don't fully land keep it from going higher than the good tier for me. Alan Wake 2 kept me on edge from start to finish. Playing as both Saga and Alan gives the game two very different feels. Saga's side plays like a grounded detective mystery where I'm collecting clues and building a case, while Alan's side drops me into a surreal, shifting dark place full of light-based puzzles and creepy encounters. The classic flashlight and gun combat returns, and with ammo always running low, every fight feels tense. I really enjoyed the atmosphere, the storytelling, and the back and forth between its two worlds. But a few pacing issues and uneven sections hold it back a bit, so for me, Alan Wake 2 lands in the good tier. When I think about Baldur's Gate 3, I think about how alive its world feels. Every step I take leads to a new story, a new choice, or a moment that completely changes my path. I love how personal everything becomes. Whether I'm talking my way through a tense situation or watching my companions react to decisions I didn't fully think through. The combat can be tough, and sometimes I rely on quick saves more than I'd like, but the freedom and creativity the game gives me always pull me back in. No other RPG has given me this much room to shape my own adventure. For me, this sits at the very top of what a role-playing game can be, a true benchmark for the masterpiece tier. Gran Turismo 7 takes me right back to why I fell in love with racing games in the first place. The moment I step onto a track, every car feels unique, and I can sense the weight, the grip, and the tiny details through the DualSense. I love how the cafe slowly guides me into new races, new cars, and even a bit of car history without ever feeling overwhelming. The handling is the real star for me, smooth, responsive, and incredibly satisfying when I nail a corner just right. Sure, the rolling starts and online requirements can get annoying, but when I'm out there racing, all of that fades away. For me, Gran Turismo 7 earns a comfortable spot in the great tier. Playing the Resident Evil 4 remake felt intense in the best way. Every fight kept me alert, and the updated controls made each shot and dodge feel sharp and responsive. I loved how the game mixed action and horror, throwing new enemy tricks at me right when I thought I had things figured out. Exploring the village, the castle, and all the dark corners was tense, but also exciting because the world looked so detailed and alive. Even after finishing it, I still felt that urge to jump back in and try different approaches. And in the end, this remake easily earns its place in what I'd call the excellent tier for my list. Street Fighter 6 grabbed me right away. The fights feel fast, colorful, and easy to understand, but still deep enough to keep me pushing myself. Every match made me want just one more, especially with how stable and quick the online battles are. I love trying out the new characters too. They all feel unique and fun to learn. And World Tour surprised me in the best way. It's silly, creative, and gives the whole game so much charm. After spending hours fighting, exploring, and building my own style, I can honestly say Street Fighter 6 delivers a great all-around package. It earns its spot firmly in my great tier. When I stepped into Death Stranding 2, it felt like everything I wanted the first game to be. The world is stranger, bigger, and far more confident, and I loved how much smoother the gameplay feels this time. Every delivery turned into its own little adventure, and the new tools and combat options gave me real freedom in how I handled each challenge. What surprised me most was how often the story pulled me in its weird moments, its emotional beats, and those huge cinematic sequences all hit hard. By the time the credits rolled, I felt like I'd taken part in something bold and truly original. For me, Death Stranding 2 absolutely earns its place in my excellent tier. When I started Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I was excited to see where the story would go after Remake, and honestly, it took me on a path I never fully expected. The open world is huge and full of things to do, and even though some chapters wander a bit, I loved how much personality each area has. The side quests feel meaningful, the characters get real emotional depth, and the big moments hit hard, both in story and visuals. Combat is even better this time, especially with synergy attacks and the new party members sliding right in. By the end, I felt completely caught up in this journey again. For me, Rebirth stands strong in my great tier. Jumping into Cyberpunk 2077 after all these years felt like discovering a world I should have visited long ago. Night City grabbed my attention right away with its style, its voices, and all the choices it throws at me. Building my version of V and shaping how I fight made every mission feel flexible and fun, whether I was sneaking through a base or causing absolute chaos. The Phantom Liberty story added even more weight to my decisions, and the game ran smoothly with only small bugs here and there. After spending so much time exploring, hacking, and surviving the city's mess, this playthrough made it clear why the game has such a strong reputation, and for me, it lands firmly in the excellent tier I reserve for games that truly win me over. Playing Sword of the Sea felt like drifting into a quiet, moving dream where the world reacts to every glide of my hover sword. I loved watching dry deserts suddenly flood with color as oceans rose beneath me, filling the land with life and letting me cruise alongside fish and wildlife. The simple movement and gentle exploration made the whole game relaxing, even if a few of the trick mechanics didn't click for me. What really stood out was the amazing art and the way the DualSense haptics made every surface feel different under my hands. By the time the credits rolled, I saw it as a calming journey with real beauty to offer, and it earns its place in the good tier I set aside for games that deliver a warm, memorable vibe. When I returned to Aloy's world, I was struck by how huge and alive everything felt. Exploring the different biomes, fighting all kinds of machines, and learning how each weapon and gadget fits into combat kept me hooked the whole time. I really enjoyed how the side quests expanded the world and how every new location had something worth checking out, whether it was a puzzle, a cauldron, or a tall neck waiting to be climbed. The story also grabbed me more than I expected, giving Aloy and the rest of the cast moments that actually stuck with me. After finishing it, I see Horizon Forbidden West as a powerful next step for the series, and it lands solidly in what I call the great tier. From the very first chapter, I could feel God of War Ragnarok pushing everything to a new level. The combat kept growing in depth, the realms were some of the most stunning worlds I've explored, and the story hit me with emotional highs and lows I didn't expect. Kratos and Atreus' journey is packed with powerful moments, incredible boss fights, and characters who genuinely stay with you. When it was all over, I sat there amazed, and it was clear to me that God of War Ragnarok sits proudly among the games I rank in the masterpiece tier. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart grabbed me right away with its bright worlds, fast combat, and smooth rift hopping that makes the whole game feel energetic from start to finish. The weapons are creative as always, and switching between Ratchet and Rivet works so naturally that she instantly feels like part of the series. The visuals are some of the best I've seen on PS5, and the writing mixes humor and heartfelt moments in a way that surprised me more than once. By the time I finished, I was genuinely impressed, and this adventure comfortably settles into the good tier on my list. Astro Bot felt like pure joy from the moment I started playing. Every level brought a new idea, a fun mechanic, or a clever PlayStation callback that made me grin. The controls feel great, the DualSense effects are some of the best I've ever felt, and the constant surprises kept me fully engaged the whole way through. It's colorful, charming, and packed with small emotional touches that hit harder than I expected. By the end, I knew this adventure absolutely belonged in my excellent tier. Playing The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered reminded me why this story hit me so hard the first time. Seeing Ellie and Abby's journey with upgraded visuals, smoother performance, and tiny details that make every location feel alive made the experience even more intense. The new No Return mode kept me hooked with its tough runs and smart character twists, and the lost levels added emotional context I didn't expect. With all these additions, this version feels like the definitive way to revisit one of PlayStation's boldest stories, and it easily earns its place in my great tier. Elden Ring overwhelmed me in the best way. Every time I explored the lands between, I found something unexpected, an enemy hiding in the dark, a stunning view, or a new path that completely changed my plans. The challenge hit hard, but being able to walk away, discover new areas, and come back stronger made every victory feel earned. The freedom, the world design, the variety in combat, and the sheer sense of discovery kept me hooked for hours without ever burning out. It's an experience that reminded me why I love games like this, and it absolutely sits at the masterpiece tier for me. Assassin's Creed Shadows had me excited at first because the Japan setting is something I've wanted for years, and there are moments where the world looks great and the two leads show real potential. But the more time I spent with it, the more uneven it felt. Naoe's stealth works well in most missions, while Yasuke often feels limited, so the balance between the two never really comes together. Exploration has its charm, yet the story beats are predictable, and the gameplay loop slips back into the same habits the series has struggled with for a long time. I still enjoyed parts of the journey, but the whole package lands in the mediocre tier for me. Monster Hunter Wilds feels great to play, with faster hunts, smoother systems, and amazing maps that shift with weather and time. And I loved how easy it was to jump straight into the action without all the old prep work slowing things down. The monsters are stylish and fun to fight, and the new focus mode makes breaking parts and dealing damage more satisfying than ever. But even though the gameplay feels better moment to moment, the low difficulty meant I never had to think hard about my gear or strategy, and the campaign ended before it ever truly tested me. It's a fun ride with sharp ideas, but it doesn't hit the heights it could have a clear fit for the good tier. Split Fiction grabbed my attention right away with how playful and creative it is. I loved moving through a story that shifts genres constantly, puzzle sections, action moments, sci-fi chaos, fantasy bosses, all stitched together in a way that never slows down. Playing as Zoe and Mio feels fun because their different personalities make every scene lively, and the co-op design encourages real teamwork without punishing mistakes. What stood out most to me is how every level brings a new idea, uses it well, and then moves on before it wears out. By the time I reached its amazing finale, I felt like I'd played a dozen games in one. For me, this adventure clearly belongs in the great tier. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 pulled me into its world with how real and grounded everything feels. Walking through Kuttenberg, talking to people, and taking on quests made the whole place feel alive in a way most RPGs never reach. I enjoyed how every quest had its own twist, and how the story shifted from small personal moments to big emotional scenes that hit surprisingly hard. Combat felt weighty and rewarding, and exploring the countryside always gave me something interesting to do. By the time the main story wrapped up, I knew I'd played something special. This one sits firmly in my excellent tier.